At my younger sister's promotion dinner, my mother raised her wine glass and said, "Some daughters are born to shine. Others are simply dependable." Everyone at the table knew which daughter she meant. Brooke sat beneath the chandelier in a new navy dress, smiling while our parents praised the life they believed she had built for herself. I was still wearing the black slacks I had worked in for 11 hours. Then my father leaned toward me and whispered that their mortgage was due Friday. I put down my fork. "Good," I said. "Brooke can pay it this month." My mother's smile vanished, because for 27 months I had been paying for their house while they introduced Brooke as the successful daughter. What I did not know yet was that the mortgage was the smallest part of what they had taken from me. My name is Claire Bennett. At the time, I was 35 years old and living in Columbus, Ohio. I worked as an inventory systems analyst for a regional grocery chain. It was not a glamorous job, but it mattered. When a winter storm closed an interstate, I rerouted delivery trucks before shelves went empty. When a warehouse freezer failed at 2 in the morning, I helped move thousands of dollars worth of medicine and food before it spoiled. When families walked into one of our stores and found milk, diapers, bread, and prescriptions waiting for them, they never knew my name. I did not need them to. I liked being useful. I liked solving problems that were real. Unfortunately, my family had spent years teaching me that being useful was the only reason I mattered. My younger sister, Brooke, was 29 and worked in brand partnerships for a downtown hotel group. She was outgoing, polished, and naturally good at making ordinary events sound important. A lunch was a client strategy session. A weekend trip was relationship development. A new dress was professional presentation. My mother, Linda, repeated those phrases as if Brooke had personally invented modern business. Brooke and I were not enemies. That is important. Growing up, I helped her study for math tests. I drove her to dance rehearsals after I got my first car. When she was 13 and terrified before a school performance, I sat with her behind the auditorium and held both her hands until she stopped shaking. She could be affectionate, funny, and generous in small ways. But she had also grown up inside a family where every inconvenience disappeared before it reached her, usually because it reached me first. My parents did not mistreat me every moment of my childhood. That would have been easier to understand. My mother remembered that I hated onions in meatloaf. She called me whenever snow was expected and told me to drive carefully. When I had pneumonia at 24, she brought homemade chicken soup to my apartment. She stayed for 20 minutes. Then she left because Brooke had called from college after an argument with her roommate. That was how my mother loved me. There was usually something warm in her hands and someone more important waiting behind me. My father, Howard, was quieter. He worked for an auto parts manufacturer and believed open conflict was a sign of bad character. He rarely started the comparisons between Brooke and me, but he always finished them. When Mom said Brooke had more ambition, Dad said I should be proud of being steady. When Mom spent extra money on Brooke, Dad said I did not need as much. When I objected, he told me not to make my mother feel guilty. He had perfected the role of the reasonable parent while agreeing with every unfair decision. The promotion dinner took place in the split-level house where Brooke and I had grown up. My parents had renovated the dining room 3 years earlier. They added crown molding built-in cabinets and a crystal chandelier that Mom photographed from 6 different angles for Facebook. I knew they could not afford the renovation. I had paid the contractor's final bill. That Wednesday, I drove directly from work, changed my blouse in a gas station restroom, and arrived 7 minutes late carrying a cake from a local bakery. Mom opened the door and looked at the box. "I thought you ordered the one with the gold writing." "The bakery was booked," she sighed. "Well, Brooke only becomes regional partnership manager once." Then she hugged me. It was not a cold hug. That was what made these moments confusing. She kissed my cheek and whispered, "My reliable girl. I knew you'd make it." For years, those 3 words had felt like love. My reliable girl. That evening, I finally heard the rest of the sentence. My reliable girl will make it. My reliable girl will pay. My reliable girl will understand. My reliable girl will not complain. At dinner, Mom told us for the 3rd time how Brooke had impressed several executives from Cincinnati. She walked into the room and took control, Mom said. Brooke laughed. "You weren't there." "I know, my daughter." Dad lifted his fork toward her. "You know how to turn an opportunity into something bigger. That's always been your gift." I smiled at Brooke. "Congratulations. Seriously, that's a big promotion." "Thank you," she said. "I still can't believe it." Mom looked at me. "Claire's company is making changes too, aren't they?" I was surprised she remembered. "We're replacing our distribution software." I'm leading the rollout. That sounds stressful. It's a promotion-level responsibility. Dad nodded. Your job is secure, though. That's the important thing. My supervisor had been encouraging me to apply for a management position for more than a year. The role required occasional travel and possibly a future relocation. Each time I considered it, one of my parents had an emergency. Dad's reduced work hours. Mom's property tax problem. A broken water heater. A medical bill. A supposed sewer repair. I had declined 2 interviews because I believed my family needed me nearby. I did not mention that at the table. Mom turned back to Brooke. Management suits your sister. She has presence. Then came the toast. Mom raised her glass and smiled at Brooke. To our beautiful daughter who proves that ambition pays off. Everyone lifted a glass. Then Mom glanced at me. Claire, I hope you can celebrate her without comparing yourself. You chose stability. Brooke chose growth. Some daughters are born to shine. Others are simply dependable. The words were delivered with a gentle smile. That was my mother's talent. She could cut you while sounding concerned about your feelings. Brooke shifted in her chair. Mom Claire works harder than anyone I know. I never said she doesn't work hard. But hard work and achievement are not always the same thing. I looked at the pearl earrings Mom was wearing. I had bought them for her 50th birthday. When she opened the box, she had said they were a little plain. She wore them to every event involving Brooke. Dad studied his plate. Then while Mom asked Brooke about her new office, he leaned toward me. The mortgage increased by $46 because of insurance. It's due Friday. I turned slowly. Why are you telling me now? So you have time to move the money. Brooke looked over. Move what money? Mom's expression tightened. Howard. I placed my fork beside my plate. Good, I said. Brooke can pay it this month. The room became silent. Dad straightened. This is not the time. It seems like the perfect time. We're celebrating financial success. Mom lowered her wine glass. Claire, whatever mood you're in, do not ruin your sister's night. I've been paying your mortgage for 27 months. Brooke stared at me. What? Mom took a slow breath. We were going through a difficult period. For more than 2 years, your father's hours were cut. His hours returned to normal last summer. Dad's face darkened. We had other expenses. I know. I paid those too. Brooke looked between us. You told me the house was almost paid off. It is none of your concern, Mom said. It became her concern when you used her promotion dinner to ask me for money. Mom's voice hardened. We did not ask. You agreed to help. I agreed to cover 1 mortgage payment. Family support does not come with an expiration date. Apparently, family respect does. Dad put both hands on the table. Enough. Your sister knows how to turn support into opportunity. You have always been better at saving than living. That is why the arrangement made sense. For a moment, I could not speak. My father had finally said the part he usually left to Mom. Brooke's future was an investment. Mine was a reserve fund. Mom reached across and touched my wrist. Her voice softened. Honey, you know how proud we are of you. I looked at her hand. What are you proud of? Her fingers tightened slightly. That you always come through. There it was. Not my work. Not my life. Not who I was. What I provided. I pulled my hand away. I won't make Friday's payment. Mom blinked. You're upset. I'm finished. Do not make permanent decisions because of one unfortunate conversation. This is not about one conversation. Brooke whispered. Claire, I didn't know. I believed she was surprised. But I was too angry to comfort her. I'm leaving. Mom followed me into the hallway. Please don't walk out like this. For 1 second, she looked like the mother who had once brought me soup. Her eyes were wet. Her voice trembled. That old hope inside me reacted immediately. Maybe she understood. Maybe she would finally apologize. Then she said, What will people think if they learn our own daughter abandoned us? The hope disappeared. This is about what people think. This is about family. No, this is about maintaining the photograph. She flinched. You'll regret turning your back on the people who raised you. I opened the front door. I didn't turn my back. You kept me outside the frame. For 8 days, my parents did not contact me. Brooke sent 2 messages. The first said, I'm sorry dinner became such a disaster. The second said, Are you still helping me look at engagement venues Saturday? I did not respond. Part of me knew Brooke had not created the arrangement. Another part of me resented how naturally she assumed my time would still belong to her. The silence from my parents should have felt peaceful. Instead, my body remained on alert. Every phone vibration made my stomach tighten. Every unknown number looked like another emergency. On Thursday afternoon, Mom finally called. She did not mention the dinner. Your father's reimbursement paperwork is a mess, she said. Could you come over after work? You understand numbers better than we do." Then in a softer voice, she added, "I made that apple crisp you like." That was my mother's most effective method. A request wrapped in affection. For years I had told myself the affection canceled the request. That evening I went, partly because of habit, partly because I wanted to understand what had really been happening. The house smelled like cinnamon when I arrived. Mom placed a warm plate in front of me and touched the back of my hair. "You look tired." "I am." "You work too much." I almost laughed. She directed me to the small office in the basement where envelopes and receipts covered the desk. "Just organize the medical papers," she said. "Your father mixes everything together." 20 minutes later, I found a student loan statement in Brooke's name. A payment of $14,800 had been made 18 months earlier. The last 4 digits on the funding account matched mine. I remembered the day I had transferred $15,000 to my parents. Mom had called me from the kitchen crying. She said a sewer line had collapsed beneath the basement floor. She said repairs had to begin immediately. She said the house might become unsafe. I had been saving that money toward a down payment on a small condo. I transferred it before lunch. There had been no sewer repair. The money had paid Brooke's debt. I opened the desk drawer. Inside was a yellow legal pad in Mom's handwriting. Mortgage Claire. Brooke car Claire transfer. Engagement trip ask Claire after bonus. Venue deposit Claire, probably March. The words were written casually beside a grocery list and a reminder to pick up dry cleaning. My future had been placed on the family calendar. Mom appeared in the doorway holding a dish towel. "Did you find the insurance forms?" I held up the statement. Her expression changed. Not guilt, annoyance. "You were supposed to organize the medical papers. You used the sewer money to pay Brooke's student loan." She folded the towel over one arm. "We used it where the family needed it most. You lied to me. We gave you the explanation you were most likely to understand. You told me sewage was coming through the basement. You would have argued if we told you the truth. That means you knew I would not agree." Dad came down the stairs. "What's going on?" She found Brooke's loan. He removed his glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Claire, we were going to explain eventually." "When?" Neither of them answered. I pointed at the legal pad. "You were planning to use my bonus for Brooke's engagement trip." Mom's face tightened. "That was only an idea." "And the wedding deposit? Brooke's wedding is next summer. Everyone will need to contribute." "I'm not contributing." Dad's jaw clenched. "Do not punish your sister because you suddenly resent your own choices." "My choices?" "You chose a modest life," he said. "There is nothing wrong with that. But Brooke's work and marriage place her in circles where presentation matters. Supporting her creates opportunities for the entire family." I stared at him. "You think my money produces a better return when it's spent on Brooke?" "That isn't what I said." "It is exactly what you said." Mom stepped closer. "Your father is trying to explain that you two have different needs. My student loans are not paid off. You can handle them. I postponed dental work because I couldn't afford it." "You never told us that." "You never asked?" Brooke came downstairs while we were arguing. She wore leggings and an oversized sweatshirt. Without the dress makeup and promotion dinner around her, she looked like the little sister I used to drive to dance practice. "What happened?" I held up the statement. "Did you know I paid your student loan?" She frowned. "Mom and Dad paid it, with money they got from me by pretending the basement needed emergency repairs." Brooke looked at them. Mom answered quickly. "We did not want financial stress distracting you." Brooke turned back to me. "I didn't know it was yours." "Did you ever ask how they suddenly had $15,000? Her cheeks reddened. "They said Dad received a work payout. And your car." I thought he was using his bonus. "His hours were supposedly cut." Brooke crossed her arms. "I didn't ask you to pay for any of this." The sentence landed exactly where she intended it to. Maybe she was shocked. Maybe she was ashamed. But her first instinct was still to protect herself. "You're right," I said. "You didn't ask. You just accepted." "That's unfair." "No. What happened to me was unfair." "You could have said no." "I was told our parents might lose the house." "I didn't know that." "You didn't want to know." Brooke's eyes filled with anger. "So now everything I achieved is fake." "I didn't say that." "You don't have to." "I can hear it." Mom moved beside her. "This is what jealousy does. It turns support into resentment." I looked at Brooke. For a moment I hoped she would reject the word. Instead she looked away. That hurt more than I expected. Mom touched her shoulder. "Your sister is overwhelmed. Don't take this personally." I gathered the loan statement and photographed the page from the legal pad. Dad stepped toward me. "Those are private family records." It was my private money. "You are creating a scandal where there doesn't need to be one." "No," I said. "I'm discovering one." I left without eating the apple crisp. That night, I met my friend Marisol at a coffee shop near my apartment. Marisol worked in payroll at my company. She was 51, divorced, and almost impossible to manipulate. She listened as I told her about the mortgage, the fall sewer repair, Brooke's loan, and the wedding plans. When I finished, she asked one question. How much have you given them? I calculated only the amounts I could verify. 27 mortgage payments, the supposed sewer repair, a property tax payment, several transfers Mom had described as emergencies. The total was $58,740. Marisol stared at the number. That is not family support. I know. No, Claire. Support is something you knowingly choose. They created emergencies, moved the money, and kept you ashamed enough not to question them. She slid my phone back toward me. They exploited the part of you that wanted to be a good daughter. The word hurt. Exploited. It sounded too deliberate. Then I remembered the legal pad. Venue deposit, Claire, probably March. It had been deliberate. They may have to sell the house, I said. Then they will sell a house they cannot afford. My mother will say I forced them. Your mother will say whatever makes you return to your assigned position. What position? Marisol's expression softened. The daughter holding the ladder while everyone else poses at the top. Over the next few days, I began to notice how much of my life had been arranged around my family's needs. A year earlier, my supervisor, Daniel, had asked me to apply for a management role. I declined because the position required travel. The same week, Dad had told me his health was becoming unpredictable. 2 months later, Daniel recommended me for an interview with a logistics technology company in Minneapolis. I canceled the interview after Mom claimed their property taxes were overdue. The taxes were paid with my money. That was the same weekend my family traveled to Nashville for Brooke's engagement celebration. I discovered the photographs on Mom's Facebook page. Mom, Dad, Brooke, and Brooke's fiancé, Ethan, stood beneath rooftop lights with cocktails raised. In one picture, they posed beside a rented limousine. The caption read, "Making memories with the people who matter most." I was not in the pictures. I had not known the trip existed. I had worked overtime that Saturday to replace the money I sent them. The following Monday, Daniel stopped by my desk. "You missed an inventory deadline last week," he said. "I know, I'm sorry. You haven't missed one in 4 years. I'm dealing with a family situation." He pulled a chair beside mine. "Do you remember the Minneapolis company I mentioned last year?" "Yes. They're hiring again. Senior Operations Systems Manager. I can't relocate right now." He studied me. "Is that true? Or is it the answer you've trained yourself to give?" I looked at him. Daniel lowered his voice. "You are qualified for more than this role, Claire. Every time an opportunity appears, you find a reason you must remain available to someone else." The words embarrassed me because they were accurate. "I'm not telling you to leave," he continued. "I'm telling you not to confuse being needed with being unable to move." That evening, I updated my resume. I did not apply yet, but for the first time, I allowed myself to imagine another life. 3 days later, my Uncle David appeared in the lobby of my office. He was Mom's older brother, a retired city bus driver who rarely raised his voice and never wasted words. He handed me a can of ginger ale from the vending machine. "Your mother says you've become unstable." I almost smiled. "That sounds like her." "She told the family you stopped helping without warning." I warned them. I assumed so. We sat near the front windows. "I know about some of the money," he said. "How?" "Your father asked me for a loan last year." When I asked why they needed it after Claire was helping, he stopped talking. I looked down at the can in my hands. "You knew they were taking money from me. I knew you were helping with the house. I did not know the amount or the lies." He paused. "I should have asked you sooner." The apology was simple. No explanation. No demand that I comfort him. It nearly made me cry. I gave them almost $59,000. Uncle David exhaled slowly. "And Brooke, she says she didn't know. Did she know your parents were struggling?" "Yes." "Then she knew enough to ask where the money came from." I nodded. He looked out the window. "People call you selfish when they are frightened you'll stop being useful. My mother says I'm destroying the family. No, you're refusing to keep hiding the damage." That afternoon, I submitted the Minneapolis application. The following Saturday, Mom texted me, "Be here at 11. We need to settle the wedding situation." I considered ignoring her. Then I went because I wanted to say no once clearly without a phone between us. Brooke sat at the kitchen counter surrounded by venue photographs and bridal magazines. Dad stood by the coffee maker. Mom tapped a picture of a restored barn outside town. "We gave up the country club," she said. "This deposit is only $6,500. You can transfer it Monday. I'm not paying for the wedding. Mom continued as if I had not spoken. Ethan's parents are covering the bar. We'll take care of the invitations. Number. Brooke shut the magazine. Can we please talk without everyone attacking each other? I looked at her. I'm not attacking you. It feels like you're punishing me for something Mom and Dad did. You are still allowing them to ask me for money. I told them I didn't want to be involved. You're sitting beside the venue they expect me to fund. Brooke's eyes hardened. What do you want me to do? Cancel my wedding because you regret helping people. I want you to pay for the life you claim you built. Her face flushed. Mom immediately placed a hand over Brooke's. That was cruel. I turned to my mother. No. Cruel was creating false emergencies while I delayed my own life. Mom stood. You have no husband, no children, and no house. What exactly are you saving for that matters more than your sister's wedding? The room went still. Dad looked down at his coffee. Brooke stared at her mother. Mom seemed to realize she had gone too far, but pride kept her from taking the words back. I answered quietly. My life. She blinked. I am saving for my life. No one said your life does not matter. You just asked what in it could matter. You are twisting my words. I spent years untwisting them so I could keep loving you. Dad set down his mug. Claire, enough. Brooke's career and marriage could elevate this entire family. You already have what you need. I looked at him. A one-bedroom apartment, unpaid student loans, and a tooth I cannot afford to repair. You have stability. You mean I have survived everything you assigned to me? Brooke stood. I never asked you to make those sacrifices. And you still haven't asked what they cost. She looked away. That was the moment I understood that Brooke was not ready to stand beside me. Not yet. I picked up my coat. Mom followed me to the front door. You are choosing money over your sister. No. I'm choosing my future over your plans for it. As I stepped outside, she called after me. When you end up alone, remember this was your decision. I turned. The loneliest I have ever felt was sitting at your table. The Minneapolis company contacted me 2 days later. The first interview lasted 40 minutes. The second lasted more than an hour. During the final interview, the hiring director asked why I had declined to speak with them the year before. I considered giving a polished answer. Instead, I told the truth. I believed I had to remain available for my family. I'm learning that responsibility does not require abandoning every opportunity of my own. She nodded. That is a difficult lesson. Yes. What changed? I finally understood that the people who needed me would never announce when I had given enough. A week later, they offered me the position, Senior Distribution Systems Manager, a salary of $126,000, relocation assistance, a start date 6 weeks away. I sat in my car after work and read the email 3 times. Then I cried. Not because of the salary, because the offer proved something my family had trained me to doubt. My life had been waiting for me. I accepted that evening. Before I could tell my parents, Mom organized what she called a family responsibility meeting. Only my parents, Brooke, Ethan, and Uncle David attended. Mom sat at one end of the dining table with a stack of overdue notices. We need a temporary solution, she announced. The mortgage is late. Claire has made her point. I wasn't making a point. Then what are you doing? Ending the payments. Dad pushed a paper toward me. If you cover half the mortgage for 6 months, we can prepare to sell in the spring. I'm not covering half. This is the home where you grew up, Mom said. It is a house you cannot afford. Brooke folded her arms. You keep saying that as if losing the house won't affect all of us. It will affect Mom and Dad. You have your own apartment. It's still our family home. And I have been paying to preserve everyone's memories while I cannot afford a future. Brooke shook her head. You always do this. You agree to help say nothing for years and then explode as if everyone should have known you were miserable. The accusation contained enough truth to hurt. I had stayed silent too long, but my silence did not excuse their lies. You're right, I said. I should have set boundaries earlier. Brooke looked surprised, but they told me the house was in danger. They lied about where the money went. Both things can be true. Mom leaned toward Brooke. Do not let her manipulate you into feeling guilty. I removed my phone. There was one message I had not shown Brooke. I placed it on the table. It was from Mom, sent after the false sewer emergency. Don't mention the money to Brooke. She needs to feel she earned this. Confidence is important in her field. Brooke read it twice. Her expression changed, but not completely. Not yet. She turned toward Mom. You said Dad's payout covered the loan. We were protecting you. From what? From feeling indebted. Brooke looked at me. So you wanted me to feel indebted instead. I did not know you would become resentful. Dad interrupted. This is going nowhere. Claire, what do you want? I want you to stop using my money and stop telling people I abandoned you. And if we do, I still won't resume payments. Mom laughed bitterly. So there is no path back. There is a path to a relationship. It begins with honesty. There is no path back to the old arrangement. Brooke pushed away from the table. I need to leave. She took her coat and walked out with Ethan. She had seen the message, but she had not apologized. She had not defended me. I did not chase her. 2 days later, I told my parents I was moving to Minneapolis. Mom stared at the job offer on my phone. 10 hours away. Yes. What about us? You will need a plan that doesn't depend on me. Dad read the salary. That is excellent money. It is. His expression shifted. Once you are settled and earning more, perhaps you could. Number. He stopped. I am not sending money from Minnesota. Mom stood from the kitchen table. So this was your plan. Turn Brooke against us, force us to sell and disappear. My plan is to stop disappearing inside my own life. Her eyes filled with tears. For a second I saw the woman who had made my favorite apple crisp. Then she said, after everything we sacrificed raising you. Even her tears arrived with an invoice. I picked up my purse. I will send you my address when I'm ready. Brooke's engagement dinner was scheduled for the following Friday. It was meant to be the last major family gathering before I moved. I planned to skip it. Then Brooke called. I don't want money, she said immediately. I'm asking you to come as my sister. I remained silent. She continued. I'm still angry. I'm angry at Mom and Dad. I'm angry at myself. And part of me is angry at you for waiting so long to tell me. I know. But the dinner will be full of relatives, and Mom is already telling people you're punishing me because you're jealous. That did not surprise me. What are you asking me to do? Just come. I agreed. The dinner took place in a private room at a family-owned Italian restaurant near downtown Columbus. White candles flickered between baskets of bread and bowls of pasta. About 20 relatives attended. Mom had placed framed photographs of Brooke on a table near the entrance. Brooke at dance recitals. Brooke at graduation. Brooke with her first company award. Brooke and Ethan in Nashville. I appeared in 2 photographs. In one half, my body had been cropped out. In the other, I stood behind Brooke carrying a birthday cake. Uncle David found me looking at it. You all right? I think so. You don't have to prove anything tonight. I know. That was the difference. A year earlier, I would have entered the room desperate to convince everyone I was good. That evening, I already knew the truth. Dinner passed with forced politeness. Several relatives avoided discussing the house. Aunt Paula asked about my move. Before I could answer, Mom said, Claire has decided she needs distance from the family. I looked at her. I accepted a promotion. Yes, she said, very suddenly. Uncle David smiled. Opportunities often look sudden when you haven't noticed someone earning them. Mom ignored him. After dessert, she stood with her wine glass. I would like to say a few words about my beautiful daughter. Brooke sat beside Ethan in a cream-colored dress. Her smile was tense. Mom began with stories about childhood talent and ambition. Then she reached the part I had expected. Brooke has never waited for anyone to carry her, Mom said. She has worked for every opportunity and built her life independently. Across the table, Brooke's eyes met mine. I did not move. Mom continued. As parents, Howard and I taught both our girls self-reliance. Some children embrace that lesson more naturally than others. A few relatives glanced toward me. She had done it again. Created a public story in which Brooke was the achiever, I was the disappointment, and my money did not exist. I reached for my purse, not to remove a binder. Not to present dozens of receipts. I placed one folded page on the table in front of Brooke. Mom stopped speaking. What is that? I looked at my sister. It is the message Mom sent after she used the money from the sewer emergency to pay your loan. Brooke did not touch it. I've already seen the message. Not this part. Her eyes narrowed. She unfolded the page. It contained the original text and the reply I had sent. Mom's message read, Don't mention the money to Brooke. She needs to feel she earned this. Confidence is important in her field. We can tell her Howard received a payout. My response, sent before I knew the truth, read, Of course, I'm just glad the house is safe. Brooke stared at the words. Ethan read over her shoulder. Mom placed down her glass. This is not the time or place. Brooke looked up. How much of my life did Claire pay for? Mom's mouth tightened. We are not discussing private finances in a restaurant. How much? Dad spoke from the other end of the table. Your mother was trying to support your career. Brooke turned toward him. With Claire's money. We intended to repay her when circumstances improved. I looked at him. That is the first time you have ever said that. Murmurs moved through the room. Aunt Paula leaned forward. Linda did. Claire really paid Brooke's loan. Mom's face flushed. She helped the family. Uncle David answered. Claire paid nearly $59,000 over 27 months. The room went completely quiet. A fork touched a plate somewhere near the end of the table. Nothing else moved. Brooke looked at me. Is that number real? Yes. Her voice became smaller. How much was my loan? $14,800. My car? Part of it. The Nashville trip. I sent Mom and Dad money that weekend because they told me their property taxes were overdue. Brooke's eyes filled with tears. She turned toward our parents. You let me post those pictures. Mom reached for her hand. Honey, we wanted you to enjoy your engagement. Brooke pulled away. You let me stand in front of everyone and act like I had earned a life my sister was quietly paying for. You did earn your career, Mom insisted. Nothing changes that. It changes what you told me. We were protecting your confidence. No, Brooke said. You were protecting the story you wanted to tell about me. Mom's expression hardened. Do not let Claire destroy your happiness because she regrets the choices she made. Brooke looked down at the message again. Then she asked the question that finally broke the room open. If Claire was paying for my life, why did you keep calling me the successful daughter? Mom did not answer. Brooke waited. Dad stared at the table. Why, she repeated. Mom's lips trembled. Because you were building something visible. Brooke looked at me. And Claire? Dad answered this time. Claire was stable. She did not need the same encouragement. Brooke laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You mean she was easier to use? Brooke, Dad warned. Number. She stood. All evening, I had expected to be the one who confronted them. Instead, Brooke faced the room. I did not know where the money came from, she said. But I knew Mom and Dad were struggling. I knew my car was being paid. I knew my loan disappeared. I accepted every explanation because asking questions might have made my life less comfortable. Tears moved down her face. I told Claire she could have said no. That was cowardly. Mom stood too. You do not owe anyone a public confession. I'm not confessing for her. I'm correcting you. Brooke removed the engagement ring hand Mom had been holding and stepped beside me. My sister did not fail because she lived quietly. She was carrying this family while we used her silence as proof she was fine. No one spoke. Brooke faced our parents. Stop calling me the successful daughter. Mom stared at her. You are upset. I am ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I benefited from something cruel. Dad looked around the room as if searching for support. This is a private family disagreement that has become unnecessarily dramatic. Uncle David rose from his chair. No, Howard. It became public when you spent years publicly praising one daughter with the other daughter's money. Aunt Paula shook her head. Linda Claire paid for your mortgage while you excluded her from the engagement trip. Mom crossed her arms. We believed Brooke needed that weekend. And what did Claire need? Aunt Paula asked. For the second time that evening, Mom had no answer. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt tired. The silence around the table was not revenge. It was recognition. For years, my family had depended on everyone seeing me as less important. Now they could not unsee what had happened. Brooke turned toward me. I'm sorry. Her apology did not magically repair us. It did not return the money or erase the years. But it was the first apology in my family that did not contain the word but. I believe you, I said. I'm still hurt. I know. I need time. I know that too. Mom picked up her purse. If everyone intends to humiliate us, we are leaving. No one stopped her. Dad followed. Before he reached the door, he looked at me. I hope this was worth losing your parents. I held his gaze. I hope the house was worth losing your daughter. He left without answering. 3 weeks later, my parents listed the split-level house. Mom told several relatives I had forced them out. Uncle David corrected her every time. Arithmetic forced them out, he said. Claire simply stopped hiding it. Brooke sold the Subaru and bought a used Honda. She reduced the wedding guest list, canceled the flower wall, and moved the reception from the country club to a community event hall. She also began sending me monthly payments. I told her I was not sure I wanted the money. She replied, "It isn't about whether you demand it. It's about becoming someone who notices what her comfort costs other people." That was the first sign that her change might last. I moved to Minneapolis in early November. My new apartment was smaller than my parents' house, but brighter than any home I had lived in. Tall windows overlooked a neighborhood park. There was room for a small dining table, several plants, and one deep green armchair I bought because I liked it. No one had an emergency that week. No one asked what else the money could have purchased. On the first Saturday of every month, I made an extra payment toward my student loan. I scheduled the dental work I had postponed. I joined a weekend hiking group. At work, I led a project improving medicine deliveries to rural pharmacies. When a winter storm disrupted multiple routes, my team worked through the night and restored service before the next morning. At our quarterly dinner, my director stood and raised her glass. Claire's leadership protected deliveries to 32 communities this winter. She sees problems before the rest of us realize they exist, and she makes everyone around her stronger. People applauded. For a second, I felt the old instinct to look down, to minimize the achievement, to say anyone could have done it. Then a server placed a cake in front of me. My name was written across the top in gold icing. I remembered Brooke's promotion dinner, the cake I had carried through my parents' door, my mother criticizing the lettering, my father reminding me that their mortgage was due. That evening there was no bill beside my plate, no comparison, no quiet request whispered after the toast. My phone lit up with a message from Mom. The condominium association had announced a repair assessment. She wrote, "Your father's hours were reduced again. We know you're doing well now. Could you help us just this once?" There was no apology, no mention of the lies, no acknowledgement of what had happened at the engagement dinner. Only another emergency. I typed my reply. "I love you, but I will not send money." A relationship with me cannot depend on financial support. When you are ready to speak honestly about what happened, I am willing to listen. Her response arrived minutes later. "Minneapolis has changed you." I looked around the table, at coworkers who knew my contribution, at friends who celebrated my success without needing to benefit from it, at a cake with my name in the center instead of my hands carrying it from the edge. My mother was right. I had changed. Distance changed me. Respect changed me. Telling the truth changed me. But most of all, I changed when I stopped believing dignity was something my family had to give me. I put my phone face down. My director lifted her glass again. To Claire. This time I did not shrink. I raised my own glass. "Thank you," I said. "I'm proud of the life I'm building." And for the first time, I understood that being dependable did not mean being available for exploitation. Family should not require one person to disappear so everyone else can shine. Love should not arrive disguised as an emergency. Legacy is not the house your parents refuse to sell or the photographs they post to prove everything is perfect. Legacy is what you teach people about the way love should feel. It should contain honesty. It should leave room for dignity. And it should never cost someone their entire future just to earn a place at the table. So tell me, would you forgive parents who still called years of lying a misunderstanding? Or would you protect the life they had already tried to